Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon. We are excited to be here on this Transformational Tuesday. I'm here with my good friend Tanya. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm awesome. Coming off of a really exciting opening weekend of college football and celebrated the holiday. How was your weekend?
Can't complain. I'm near the beach, so that always makes me happy.
Yeah, it's hard to beat that. Hard to beat that. Um,
Well, except probably for college football fans who are really, really excited that football is starting.
yeah. It's a good time. It's a good time of learning. It's a good time of projecting and being right and being wrong. And I'm really excited about the conversation that we get to have today. We're going to be talking about asking ourselves phenomenal questions. And I was really excited about this when I got it in my spirit. And I just want to ask you, Tanya, what is your idea about asking yourself phenomenal questions? What comes up for you when you hear that?
I think phenomenal questions are the ones that get my brain going and thinking,
Hmm.
and the ones that open up my brain, not necessarily the ones that lead to the right answer. uh,
Mm,
but definitely the ones that get my mind going and like kind of open it up to multiple perspectives,
yeah,
and very according to Limitless Minds philosophy. I think they're mostly start from a neutral mindset kind
yeah,
of. How about you? What
yeah.
is
I love what you said. They don't always have to lead to the right answer, but it opens the door to curiosity, right? And when we're moving from that neutral mindset, it's almost like we have our detective eyes on, right? And it's really beneficial to be curious. I don't know about you or anybody who's watching, but I know this weekend, man, I projected some games. I projected some teams to play certain ways, and I won't say that I was mostly right this week. Try again next week, but in this concept and frame of thinking about asking ourselves phenomenal questions, I started to get curious about where in my life do I feel fractured? Where do I kind of feel stuck? And the first phenomenal question that I was asking was, where have I under projected commitment level, right? So for me, when I think about, I have different relationships in my life. I have kids, marriage, um, working out different work relationships, and a lot of times it's really easy to get stuck in, expecting things to move faster,
Mhm.
expecting that I should be in a different position, expecting that people should understand who I am and where I'm coming from. And right when you want to quit, I think it's an awesome time to kind of ask yourself a phenomenal question. Where am I under projecting the commitment level that it takes to be successful? So when I look back at my life, I'm a three-time transfer player. So in college, I played for three different teams. And I think, I always looked at my work ethic and said, I deserve what I want because I work hard. But maybe if I had the awareness and opportunity to be more curious, I'd say, man, maybe it's a situation of I under projected the commitment level that it would take to be successful. And that's possible. And that's a hard question, but it also leads to more possibilities for us. So, what are your thoughts on that, Tanya?
Yeah, I love that. And you and I talked about, like, is it under projected or underestimated, or
Hmm.
over projected, overestimated? And we want to bring both because they're kind of different ways of asking the same thing. But
Hmm.
again, each question, to me, estimated has to do with how much you thought it would be, like how much effort, how much time. Sometimes, like you said, we think things are going to go our way a lot quicker than they do.
Hmm.
But then I love also the word projection because that one has like an insight into the future. And I think, like, projection is something that's very clear.
Yeah, yeah,
And so we wanted to kind of share with people both ways to see, like, hey, whichever works best for you.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I,
so
I, I love that. Yeah.
in terms of,
Well, on that note,
yeah,
language,
yeah,
language, what you're saying.
language.
Language is really important because how many people, you could ask 10 people, you guys have had 90 days. How many of you guys worked out? And maybe 7 out of 10 people will say I worked out. But worked out is a really big statement. And sometimes we can say, man, I've been working out for 3 months and I hadn't seen any results, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if we continue to ask ourselves phenomenal questions and get into that language, like you're saying, and get more specific and get more curious, we can say, well, yes, I have been working out, but maybe I under projected the commitment and the culture and the intensity that I need to work out with. And
Mm-hmm.
then we're immediately broken from a stuck state. Um, a lot of times when I'm sitting with people, I'm always keeping my ear open for really big statements. I've never done that. Or I always do this. Or yeah, I've I've done that before. Well, let's get curious about that and ask more phenomenal questions and say, you know, I did do it, but when it comes to the details, I underestimated or underprojected that commitment level, right?
And shout out to Matt Miller, who's here with us. Another room tilter, amazing human, and I love he kind of just wrote down your question, Hubert. And again, the way I think for me, if I ask myself, where have I under projected, it might get me stuck because the way that question is would lead me to feel like I have to find one answer.
Mm,
For people that are like me, and again, like some of the best questions we can ask ourselves are tough questions. But
right.
then the problem is that when we're asking ourselves tough questions, then our mind might be inclined to like avoid them
That's right.
or not answer them or just like answer them in like the minimal statement just to have something there. And so something that I thought I would ask to your question instead of like where have I is like what might be some ways in which I am under projecting my
Mhm.
commitment, or what might be some ways in which I underestimated the commitment it would take. And
Yeah.
so for me, about like listing those ways and doing it like explore more of an exploratory thing than
Yes.
again finding this is the answer. And I think both work for different people or what you need. But
Hmm.
for me, I'm like, I'm gonna force myself to maybe look at 5 or 10, and then just kind of to get my brain thinking about the things that I wouldn't normally think about, or my blind spots. So that acting of might have kind of is is I think a little bit less direct in a way.
Yeah. 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 I love that. And L pointed out, get curious. I love that.
Hmm.
Um, so the way that I like to put a mental picture of like when we're asking these tough, phenomenal questions, it's more like opening the door and peeking inside the room of a home and figuring out
Yeah.
what pictures are on the wall. What does the carpet look
Mm.
like? Is there a window? Right? I don't need to go in that room and get stuck and then I'm there and I can't ever leave. But if we're choosing curiosity, like you're saying, we just open the door, kind of look around, assess the situation, and then if we want to change things, change them. Right. I
Yeah.
also think to take it a step further, it's really important that we understand there's a benefit to what we're talking about. It's not easy, but on the other side of being curious, and I like to describe it like, either we're going to find the enemy and be in like reconnaissance mode, recon mode, or we're going to choose to be curious. But on the other side of that curiosity is the truth about us.
Yeah.
And the closer we can get to showing up as like our authentic self, who we are, what's true about us, and learning what's true about us, we begin to project that, and that's healing, right? So I love what
Yes.
you're exactly correct. It's not easy. We can get stuck there, but the idea is we open the door, look at the room, and then adjust the room like we want through curiosity and not judgment, right? Not like recon mode and finding the enemy and blaming, right? It's more taking
Hmm.
responsibility making it look how we want, and then keeping it moving.
Yeah. And that, you know, that and some of the stories that you told before about, projecting, like people, when I think everyone, when there's the start of the league, people have projections, they have like the bets.
Mm-hmm.
When you're doing fantasy football, like people like have certain ideas of like how the season will go.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the exercises I love doing with the teams that I work with at the beginning is, let's say there's 27 games in the season. I
Mm-hmm.
asked them, and this is football soccer, so there's tying. So it's like, how many games are you going to win, tie, and lose?
Mm.
And it's really funny because they always, almost like, let's say there's 27 games, and generally they're like, we're gonna win 20, 21, and then we're gonna tie some, and so I'm like, well, how realistic is this? Who has ever won like over 20 games in the
Right.
season?
Right.
And you're like, well, no one, but like we have to believe in ourselves, and we have to, like, we can't put that we're going to lose games, or we can't put that we're going to tie games. And I make them put like literally their schedule, so like estimate which games they're going to win and lose and tie.
Mm.
And
I
I'm
love
like,
that.
why are you so scared? Like, if this isn't realistic, and this is kind of bringing it back to neutral, like,
Yes.
losing a game doesn't have to be negative. You have to be prepared to lose. You have to be prepared to tie.
Mm.
Like, what to do when that happens.
That's right. That's right.
And I think sometimes what messes teams up, and even individual athletes, is like they're overestimating, they're over projecting,
Yes.
because from you I don't know when this wave started of like we have to be positive, and like picture in your mind what you want, and if you picture it, you're gonna get it. And like, no, it's sports. Like, you're gonna lose, sorry. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
want to lose, don't play. um so, but learning to kind of deal with it and overcome it, and use those tying and losing moments to get better as a team and to help you prepare, I think is just as important as learning to win.
Yes. That is really powerful. That is really powerful. I love that that frame of we're gonna lose, and if you're a high performer, you got to know how to lose. And there's a lot of learning that comes from the urgency of losing, if you accept it, right? And the,
Right.
and the idea of getting back to neutral is perfect, right? So because now when we lose, instead of going in a recon mode, I'm bad, we're not good, we're not capable. It's more, well, what can we learn? Where can we build? Next play, right? And so that's a phenomenal question. To take it a step further, in relationship, I see this a lot. I deal with it personally. Not only do teams over project winning, we over project other people's capabilities and then treat them like our disappointment. And that is
Hmm.
dangerous from leadership. It's a toxic pattern in any kind of relationship. And I think another really important, phenomenal question to ask is, where am I over projecting my expectations of other people?
Yes, I love that question, and I love your story about it. So, can you tell us, um,
Yeah,
also how is that,
yeah,
other room tilters? I'm excited. This like room tilter collaboration. It makes everything so much better.
yes, it does. Yes, it does. So my son's team, he plays 11U football down here in Lake Nona, outside of Orlando, and I'm a big football guy. My son's been playing since he's 5 years old. I've had the opportunity to coach him more years than not with my travel schedule, but we started off the season 0-2, and I had to start asking myself some phenomenal questions as a coach. And either I'm gonna go out to practice today, and I'm gonna show up and start screaming and throwing stuff and trying to hold them to a standard that these kids probably don't understand, or I could just be honest and say, hey, where am I over projecting their capabilities and skills? And once I ask that question, then I become a better teacher. Then I can communicate with them more effectively, right? Because I believe that, I mean, communication is only as good as the person who's receiving it receives it, right? It doesn't matter about my football knowledge and what I think and what I know it takes to be successful. So I can know what it takes to be successful, but when it comes to the people that I'm serving right now, it's important that I don't over project their skills and capabilities. I don't over project
Mm-hmm.
why they're playing. Because football to me, when I was young, was a way out. It was a way to make my whole family proud and a way to be to stand out in my community. But I'm actually grateful that football is not that for my son. And if I never come to the table and reevaluate where am I over projecting, I'm almost kind of carrying a lot of a trauma response and handing it off to my kids. So, and I'm also, missing on so many teachable moments by over projecting.
Yeah, and I think again when we are over projecting on other people, we're not seeing people as they are. We are seeing them
That's so good.
what we expect them to be or what we want them to be, and for coaches and any kind of leader, that's super important, right? Because when you're doing that, people also don't feel seen.
That's right.
And
That's
for
right.
people, I think, I mean, Chris is here, Ellie's here. I think Matt's from like the other band, but I know that Iris is like us, and we're like super perfectionists. And so
Mm-hmm.
if someone has kind of that expectation of us, and you keep trying to meet it and you keep failing, and
Mm-hmm.
those horrible things, right? Because you're not learning and you're trying to like be up to the standard of the person who's projecting that
Mm-hmm.
perception of you instead of you being who you truly are from when it feels most authentic and real and from your own projections of yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I mean, this ties into what Ellie is saying about the winning mentality. We're playing into preparation and learning. I think when there's all this over and under projection, under and overestimation, because under and overestimating also has to do with the circumstances.
Yes.
And I think like when I think about what you're saying, it's like, well, what are their ages? What are their like
Mm-hmm.
what are they playing for? And like you said, maybe they're playing because they like football. And so if you're it's all about winning, then maybe your projection and theirs is doesn't match.
That's right.
And that's where you as a coach asking yourself these phenomenal questions and taking this step back and being like, what do they need?
That's right.
Where are they at? And how are my own projections getting in the way of getting the best of them?
Yeah. And speaking of my projections, I love what you said about, meeting people where they are, they feel seen.
Mm-hmm.
I think for like as a coach, I'm always talking about parts work in our internal environment. And I think a lot of times, especially really high performers and perfectionists, if you unpacked our different voices, we would find that we have internal parts within ourselves that we are over projecting what they can do. And
Yeah,
we're just tired,
exactly.
just tired. And it's okay to say that because I don't think you can be a really hot performer and don't have like a manager part that's just over. Yep, I can do it. Yes, I'll take it. Yep, I'll be there. I can pull this off. If anybody can do it, I'll find a way. But sometimes we got to spend time with us, me, and ask a phenomenal question and say, man, which one of my parts right now need to be felt, seen, and heard? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, which one of my parts right now need to be met where it is?
Yeah,
And we can only do that by asking questions and then listening. Right? You mentioned that before. So
yeah,
I love the way you framed how important listening is.
Yeah. So what I told you earlier is I think the two most underrated skills. Second comes asking phenomenal questions, and first is listening.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes to not just listening to others, but listening to ourselves.
Yeah.
And the catch is you can't listen to yourself unless you're asking yourself questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's like you said, and I love the over under projecting, because again, when you realize maybe I'm over projecting what I can do in the amount of time that I said I would, like these thing that we have of like we feel that we are superheroes when we're actually just humans.
Mm-hmm.
Also when we explore that, um, I think especially for the ones that measure achievement,
Yep.
self identity, it's
Mm.
like I'm not failing. I just like overestimated or over projected. But just
That's
because I'm not what I thought I could be or where I thought I would be in this amount of time doesn't mean I'm failing. I think when we're not asking these questions that you said, we're not looking at all the progress that we've made.
right. Right. And then we have a lot of voices that are saying, be grateful. Be walk in gratefulness. Spend some time every day thinking about what you do have. But I think a lot of times over projecting gets in the way and kind of blocks that out.
Yeah.
We can't be grateful because we're so focused on what we don't have and what we didn't accomplish, right? And then we crush our momentum. It's a really
Yes.
toxic cycle. We can't build momentum. We can't take agency and gratefulness because we hadn't listened and just been honest about where we're over projected. I love
Hmm.
that. I love that.
And I spoke with Carla, I think, no, with Iris. We talked about goal setting, and goal achievement. And I think one of the reasons why people keep failing, in goal achievement and in changing habits, is that we over project, and then we also under project or underestimate the
Yes.
commitment it takes.
Mm-hmm.
So we think it's gonna be faster and easier and less hard work, but at the same time we want results quickly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when we don't see them, like you said, like you're working out for 3 months and you don't see the results you wanted. And sometimes because we're not seeing the results that we wanted, we stop seeing the results at all when there
That's
are results.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And something else that came up for me when you were talking, um, it's all about relationship, right? So
Yeah.
let's just say we want to accomplish a goal or establish a new habit. It helps us to view it as a relationship either between me and my parts or my internal environment, and I'm
Mm,
discussing these things like, man, when it comes to my internal resources, who can I recruit to accomplish this goal? And then making a really healthy projection, and then try to make a really healthy commitment level, estimate, and
yeah.
then understanding that that's negotiable, right? We don't visit it once and it's a light switch and it worked or it didn't. It's a
Yeah.
constant conversation and this feedback loop of like listening and meeting myself, where I am, and where my resources are. Also, when it comes to working on a team with other people, I think you can have really two phenomenal high performers, but if both people have different ideas of commitment that it takes to accomplish a goal, that will create fracture and it will stop progress. So I think it's really important with teams or partnerships. Number one, with yourself, right, to ask these questions, and then when it comes to like people you're in a relationship with, like really sit and kind of think, wow, like do we even have the same idea of what this is going to cost us, right?
Yeah.
Do we have the same idea of commitment level from each other?
Yeah, I love what you said about relationships, because even if we did commitment looks different for everyone else, and
Mm-hmm.
effort looks different for everyone else. And like, you know this, I can see you playing drums and it looks effortless, right?
Mm-hmm.
When people are like at a very high level, what they do, it seems effortless and it seems like it doesn't require that much commitment,
Mm-hmm.
but people didn't see what it took to get there. And I think, sometimes, again, it's our expectation of what commitment looks like, but it may look different to someone else even though they're the same. Like, even the level is 100, but it looks different because maybe for one it looks like running like hell on the field and working
Mm-hmm.
out and getting in early and staying late, but maybe for someone else is making sure they're getting sleep and taking breaks.
That's right.
And maybe it makes sure, like, it also means taking time off so they can come back fresh. And
Yep.
so one person might be looking at the other guy, be like, well, he doesn't come in early, he's not as committed. But maybe the other person is like, well, I'm trying to get my sleep and trying to enjoy some time off so that when I get on the field, my mind's refreshed and my body's refreshed. This guy's just there all day. and
Mm-hmm.
and so I think part of these discovery and these relationships is about like learning that commitment will look different for every person on their team,
That's right. That's right.
and in the conversation so that we know effort level is always 100, like that's the least expected.
Mm-hmm.
And then what does that look like for each person?
That's right. I love that. And all the things that we're talking about, to wrap it all up, it all comes back to communication.
Yes.
And a lot of times we think the communication is between you and I, but it also is between me and me, and
Mm-hmm.
you, right? So the idea of asking phenomenal questions, it strengthens relationships. It gives us a different fitness to go after goals, and we can meet ourselves and other people where they are,
Yeah.
right? And I love that frame, and I had a lot of fun talking about it with you today.
Same. And again, the phenomenal questions, we talked about two or four,
Yeah.
but there's so many. And I think one of the key takeaway messages is like, make sure you're asking yourself phenomenal questions
That's right.
every day. And if you're feeling stuck, where am I, over projecting or under projecting, is are two great ones.
Hmm.
um, but there are so many others that, to me, like, just the thought of asking ourselves phenomenal questions in different moments of the day is a game changer.
Yes. 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 Yeah. So thank you, Tanya. I had a blast. I had a blast, and everybody who checked in. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, and don't forget to check in tomorrow. It'll be Ellie and Krista. Oh my God, what a fun live! So don't miss it. It'll be amazing. Thank you, Hubert. Thanks, everyone.